Okay, so this is tutorial number 22, and this is going to be on object pooling, which is a very important technique, especially on mobile and especially on any sort of device that has limited memory. So you can really apply this to a lot of different things, but it's good in any application really, but especially on mobile. Um, so object pooling is what it's called, and we're going to break it down. You're going to have to bear with me. This is going to be one of those tutorials where I have to copy and paste code in chunks because it's a little bit more complicated than a lot of the stuff we've done. So I'll try to make it as easy to follow as I can. So first off, we've got our Flash file, which has 0 code in it. It just has one layer with one object, which is our hoop. Inside that hoop is our net. The instance name is set in both of these. We will need that in our hit detection. So you've got hoop, and then inside that you've got, the instance net, both lowercase. In the library, you've got those same 3 important objects. Our basketball, which we'll be creating, will be spawning. Our hoop and our net is what you just saw. So these 3 objects. The basketball and the hoop are both set to export for Actionscript, although we really only have a class for the basketball. So that's our Flash file, really simple, and we've got our 3 classes, our document class, main.as, and our basketball and our pool. These 3 are my references for the completed tutorial. Just bear with me as I reference them and copy and paste from there. So Flash file and 3 Actionscript classes. This basketball class, I've just pre-written it because it's really 3 lines of code. It's just a couple of Boolean variables and 1 integer that just toggle the states of the basketball. And this slot integer is just for where to place it on the screen, just so they don't all overlap each other, and you can see that there's 5 at a time. So that the basketball class is really simple. Let's not focus on that right now. So the first step really in talking about object pooling is to, what does object pooling do? It's the concept of reusing objects, which is again extremely important on mobile. Instead of creating an object over and over whenever you need it, like a bullet, for example, or an enemy or anything that you're going to have a lot of in your game, you're going to want to put them in a pool and only create that amount that you think you're ever going to need at one time. So in this instance of this tutorial here, I'm going to be creating 5 at a time, although we're going to have the option for what to do when we need more, which is always important. But that's the basic concept. Create a pool of objects, the amount you think you're going to need only, create them in the beginning of the app, and reuse them. Because that's a lot less computationally expensive to reuse it than to create a new one. In other words, it's a lot easier on the processor, on the hardware of the device that your game is running on, to reuse an object rather than to create one from scratch. So let's look at this. So in our document class here, all that I've got set up is these 2 variables, a pool, which is just, it's called pool. It's of class pool, which we're going to write. That is your object pool itself. And then I've just got this empty array called the balls array. And that's where we're going to store all our basketballs when they're in the document class. Now it's worth noting that, we have an array in our document class called balls array, and we have an array in the pool itself called pool ball array. Now they both hold the basketballs. It's just one is holding them inside the pool and one is actually holding them in our document class where we can do things with them in the code. So it's just important to remember that. So first off, let's add our pool to our document class. add child pool, and let's call the function that basically sets it up, which is fill pool. I'll show you that here. So we're going to add it to our document class, and we're going to fill it with the basketballs. So right now, you see, when I render my movie, we've just got the basketball hoop. The basketballs aren't here. So we're going to first fill the pool, and in the process, add them on screen. So again, bear with me as I copy these chunks, and I will explain them. Okay, so we've got our fill pool function here, and again, what this is doing is setting the initial size of our pool. It's filling it up in the beginning. So in our pool class here, our object pool class, I've got 5 of these variables set up, and I'm going to explain them real quick. The first one is an integer. It's just the size of the pool. For me, it's 5 in this tutorial. So we're going to have a base size of 5, and again, if we need to go over that, we will, but you want to try to find out what you need and stick to it. We have the array of the pool. This is the object pool's own array that holds the basketballs, different from the array in our document class that I just showed you. We've got that. We've got a starting X and Y position, and we've got a Y offset. So the basketballs simply don't stack on top of each other. We're going to put them one on top of each other on the Y coordinate. So you can actually see that there's more than one. So this first function I mentioned, we're filling up the pool. So what are we doing? We're going to be doing a lot of just looping through arrays. So that I kind of set up the looping part of the function, since you already know how to do that. So create a variable, same old loop, create an integer variable, set it to 0. While the variable is less than the size of the pool, while b is less than 5, iterate it, add 1 to it over and over, so the loop will run 5 times and create 5 basketballs. So I have this trace function just so we can see what's going on here. I'm going to uncomment that. So what are we doing here? Ignore the trace statement for now. We're creating a basketball, variable ball, basketball, new basketball. Again, remember that how does it know what that is? The basketball in our library is set to export as basketball. It's a basketball class that we're creating from scratch. And then again, there's the basketball AS file as well. Very simple. Variable ball, create new basketball. And once we create it, we're going to put it inside of the array in the object pool. We're pushing it to the array. I'm giving it a slot. This is simply an integer variable that holds its vertical position. That just goes with the offset, so they don't all stack on top of each other. So just think of the slot as its vertical position on the screen. The slot equals b plus 1, so the slot keeps changing to put the basketballs one on top of another. The ball X starting X, the ball starting Y is the starting Y plus an offset to continually move them down the screen as we create them. So it'd be Y position 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Because we're adding in that offset multiplied by the B variable, which of course changes. So that's all that is here, setting the starting position. And then the last step is important. We're adding it to the parent, which is a movie clip, telling it add it to the parent movie clip, add to the screen of the parent movie clip, which of course the parent is our document class. And how do you know that? Because what's the first thing we did? We added the pool to the document class. So the document class is now always the parent of the object pool. So this last line in the fill pool just adds the ball into the parent, which will make it show up on screen, of course. So let's look at what we have now. And there you go. You've got this, and because my trace statements, we've got all the information of what happened. We filled up the pool. Fill the pool. The array starts at a length of 0 as the function is called. You can see here it's called every time. Fill the pool. Array length is 1, length is 2, length is 3, length is 4, etc. So now we've got a total of 5 balls in this function here. So now what do we need to do with them? Okay, well we need to be able to use these with the goal of the tutorial, showing you that when I drop these in the net, I'm going to recycle them. Or when they go off screen, hit the bottom of the screen, we're going to also recycle them. So it's just that idea of pooling the objects. Okay, so now that we have the pool filled and the balls are on screen, we're going to next set up, the next logical step would probably be to set up this mouse click, set up our 2 events within our document class. So we're going to do a stage add event listener. We're going to first add our enter frame, and then we're going to add our mouse listener, which will simply, when we click the mouse, it'll add a basketball to wherever the mouse is. We're going to call the function that's connected to the mouse event spawn ball. You can see I already have my main loop function right here, which is our enter frame called every frame. Okay, so we've got our spawn ball function. I'm just going to copy that. Oh, whoops. Shouldn't have that void statement there. Since we are returning remember the void is when you're not returning something. We are returning a mouse event. So this is the function that will be called when we click the mouse. So what's going to happen here? This is where we start using our pool. And it won't work until I get the get function of the pool. So until I get the function that grabs the ball from the pool, it won't work, because that's the whole concept here. So variable ball, a basketball, an object of type basketball. So instead of what you're used to seeing, where we would write here, we would simply create a new one. This is a very important part of the whole tutorial, so bear with me, I'm going to go into a little detail on it. Instead of the normal way you would create an object like this, create it, set the class of the object, and put the new keyword here, which signifies the creation of a new object. Instead of doing that, what you're doing is grabbing it from the pool, meaning it's already exists. You're not creating a new object. You're finding the object pool, which of course is in our document class. We have an instance of it, and you're accessing a function of that object to get the object you want, rather than creating it from scratch. So we're saying pool get ball. And before I digress onto what that is, we're then going to put it into the array in our document class. Think of it as the outer array, not the pools array, the outer array that we will work with in our project here for hit detection and all that. we're simply then we're just setting the coordinates of this ball to the mouse, wherever the mouse is at that time, and we're setting two properties of it, which are again already put in as part of the basketball itself. Is just now saying that it's active and it's in play, and you'll see why we need that as we go on. But that's just saying that it's currently in use rather than sitting in the pool. So you're changing it from false to true. It starts as false. You're making it true once you spawn that ball. So let's digress and understand what we're doing. We have to actually set up this get ball function. So I'm going to go to my example of the finished tutorial, and I'm just going to copy that function. And explain it as best that I can. All right, so again, I have these trace statements in here. I'm not even going to turn them on right now. I just want to leave it in here. If you want to see them when you're writing your own or you're copying the source file, you can sort of understand what's going on here. And I'm going to comment out the pool ones, since you know that that works now. So, okay, so this get ball function, which is called when we click the mouse on the stage. What is this doing here? So first off, we have to see if there is a ball in the pool. And remember, our ball pool is just an integer that we're going to move down or bring up based on whether we're adding or removing a ball from the pool. Right now we're getting a ball, so we're taking one out of the pool. So we have to first make sure one's available. If the pool is greater than 0, which remember this is just an integer we're reading. If it's greater than 0, okay, let's loop through the array within our pool, our inner array, a standard loop, and we're going to, the point of what we're doing in here is to grab a ball from the array and of course remove it once we've grabbed it. To remove it from the array and the pool in the concept. So variable ball, basketball, equals pool ball array B. So we're just taking the first ball we come across in the pool array. And again, we filled it in the beginning. So we're not creating anything new. This is important. We filled it in the beginning, and that's all we're creating, as long as we're able to. So grab it from the array, splice it out of the array. Once we take it, we want it to be out of the pool array, and then we're knocking this integer variable down 1 because we took it out of the pool, and that integer has to stay, the integer variable has to stay consistent with how many balls are actually in the pool, or of course the code will mess up. So you have to remember to knock that variable down when you're taking out and bring the variable up when you're putting a ball back in the pool, as you will see later. So and then we just break out of the loop because we found our ball. And what's important here, remember, because we are returning a value out of this function, which we haven't talked a lot about I think I only briefly mentioned it, but typical functions, typical functions are not returning something. So if you have an event or an object inside of parentheses, that means you're handling that. You're handling that. In this case, I'm handling an event. I'm handling a mouse event. So this is your handler function. You have your listener and you have your handler. Listener, handler. But these functions do not return a value. They don't return any piece of information. They only accept information. So in the pool class, this is a common programming technique which you can look up called a getter and a setter. And that's all that this is. You're getting a ball and then we're going to be setting a ball when we put one back in the pool. For now, we're talking about getting a ball, pulling it out of the pool. So what this means with this quote, this colon basketball, that means that these functions, this function, the get function, is going to return a basketball, rather than our set function, which you'll notice accepts a basketball, just like our mouse event or our event enter frame. So remember that the difference is the side of this colon mark here. When you see something on the right side of it, rather than void, which signifies you're not returning anything, we're returning a basketball. So our function is expecting that. So we have to tell it what to return. So that's what this last line is here. Okay, we found a ball. By looping through our array, we found the ball. We've spliced it out of the array. We've incremented our pool integer. We've broken out of the loop. But now we're actually breaking out of the function by we're telling it to end the function. We're returning a ball. We found a ball. Let's return it. Let's tell the person that was looking for it, here it is. So this is the connection point to our document class. I'm just trying to go full circle here. So in this line here, again, when we click the mouse, and I'm going to show you this, you click the mouse, you grab a ball from the pool, get ball, you need to return it, that basketball object that it's looking for. And that's what we're doing. This extra part, which I should talk about, and I hope it doesn't confuse matters, but you have to deal with what happens when you don't have any more balls in the pool. So remember, our if statement is all contained here. If there's still a ball left in the pool, then that's great, and you do what you should. But in the event that you've overshot your estimate, you've undershot your estimate of how many you need to create a new one, which you want to avoid, of course, but you need to be ready to deal with if the pool happens to be empty and you still need a new object. So all we're doing here is much simply just creating a new one, just like you're used to creating any movie clip. New ball of type basketball, create a new one, add it to our parent, which of course is our document class, and we're still returning that new ball. Because remember, we're still within this function. And again, you need to return an object of type basketball. So once we're out of this if statement, we're saying, okay, there's none left. We have to create a new one, so we will. And we're going to then add it to the document class. And keep in mind here, we're not putting it in document class's array here. That's being handled in our spawn ball function, in the function that's called on the mouse click. So we don't put it in the pool does not put it into the movie clips, the document class's array. That's the document class itself handles that. The pool just adds it. It just adds it to the screen, which is that add child command. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's see where we're at. There you go. So I'm now clicking the mouse, and you can see that I'm pulling from the pool, my pool that was on the left there. And now that there's no more to pull from the pool, look what's happening. My trace command for that last little part we added, I'm creating new basketballs because there's none left in the pool. Why? Because we haven't put anything back into it. We've only taken from it. So just to show you what was happening there, if there's nothing left in the pool, this trace command triggers saying, okay, the pool's empty, create a new one. Grabbed 1, grabbed 2, grabbed 3, 4, 5. Now our pool's empty, right? There's nothing on the left. So we're creating a new one, and look at the top left of the screen. You'll see that trace command telling us we're creating a new basketball since our pool is empty. Okay, well obviously we have to return objects to the pool to make it work, not just take from it. But before we're going to do that, we've got to get the ball moving and hit detecting, so we have an actual reason for removing it from the screen. So it's not just disappearing for no reason at all. So let's get the balls moving towards the net, and then we'll do a hit detection if they touch the net. So again, let me just reference my code. We've got two functions that are going to be running every frame in our enter frame loop. Main loop is the name of the function that's called every frame. See here. We've got the move balls function, and we've got the check for collisions function. And these are not really going to be that complicated. I'm just going to copy this first function that just moves the balls. Remember, it's called every frame. So what does it do? Scan through the balls array. The document class is array. Again, we've created in the beginning. So that global array of our document class can be be accessed anywhere in the document class. Scan through the balls array and move all the active balls down. So that active variable that our basketball has attached to it, that property, if you want to think of it that way, it's a Boolean variable, and it's public, so I can access it in my document class. We loop through the balls array, and if we find one that's active, aka it's been set to active because we've pulled it out of the pool by our mouse event. So if it is active, okay, move it down by 7 pixels every frame. So let's see that in action. Oh, of course we got an error because we didn't actually write our check collisions function. So I'm just going to put an empty function there rather than confuse you with that for now. Check for collisions. We're going to fill that after, but first I want to just show you what we just wrote. Oh. Do I have a misspelling in there? Yes, I did. There we go, error's gone. So what do we just write? The move balls function. Okay, when I click this mouse, the ball is going to be taken from the pool. It's going to be set to the position of my mouse, as you can see here. We're matching it to the mouse's position, and it's being set to active, and it's being set to in play. There you go. Of course, nothing's going to happen when it touches the net because we haven't done our hit detection, or when it goes off the screen. We have to do both those. But you can see we're taking it from the pool, it's dropping down, and that's all it's doing for now. Oh, I ran out, so I have to create more. Okay, so now let's actually make it, let's set up our hit detection and actually remove it from the screen once it touches the net. Not the hoop, not the whole hoop and backboard, just the net. And of course it won't be pixel perfect because we're not doing it that complicated way that I showed you and that Urban Santa uses. We're just doing it off the bounding box of the object, which is, square. So it may not look like it touched the very edge of the hoop or the net, but just, you get the idea. Okay, so our check collisions function, I just copy and pasted it in. Now that remember, this is called every frame. This is our hit detection. So what are we doing? I always have a comment, or I try to, that explains what's going on here. Scan through the balls array, the same array we were just scanning through to move them down, and check if any of the balls have hit the net, which is inside of the hoop parent object, which I showed you in the beginning. So it's a nested movie clip. So we're only trying to see if that specific movie clip was hit. Or if the ball has fallen off the screen, which is, my screen's 800 by 600, so if its Y value is greater than 600, it's pretty much off the screen. So what are we doing? Again, a simple loop, but you will notice, just like I showed you in some of my previous tutorials, when you're going to be removing objects, it's always good to loop backwards through an array rather than forward, so you don't trip over yourself. Because keep in mind, if you happen to remove an object, you could be trying to access an object you just erased, if that makes sense. So you want to move backwards through the array when you have the potential to be removing objects from it. So you don't try to access the same object you just deleted. So variable b, and it has a little bit of a different structure because it's looping backwards. You're setting the integer, you're setting the starting value of the variable to the length of the array, which is of course going to be the last object in the array rather than the front. Like you see up here, you're starting it at 0, so you're accessing the front of the array. Loop backwards through the array, and our if statement is checking two things, just like I explained in the comment. If this current ball we're testing, balls array B, the current ball that we're looping through and looking at, hit test object hoop.net, so the parent object and the child object. If this specific ball has touched the net, or if it's fallen off the screen, if its Y value is greater than 600, then what are we going to do? We're going to do a few things. And this is very similar to what you've seen in some of my previous tutorials. Remove child, remove it from the screen. Just remove from the screen, not the array yet. We're going to set these two properties of the basketball's own class, or properties of the basketball itself. We're setting the active to false and the in play to false. So basically just saying that it's out of the game. It's not being used anymore, and we got to get it. It has to be sort of reset to be ready to use again. So we're setting those to false, and here's the very important line. I have the comment that explains it. Put it back in the pool. Very, very important line, just as important as that line I showed you up here, which is the basis of this whole tutorial. In our spawn ball function, when we click the mouse, this very important line I showed you before, variable ball of type basketball, pool, get ball. So grab the ball. This is the one line that gets the ball, and now we're seeing the full circle, the other end. Pool, set ball. We're setting it back in the pool, ready to be used again. Now that we've reset its properties, it's ready to be used just as if from when you first pulled it out. So pool, set ball, balls array B. So what ball are we putting back in? Of course, the one we're talking about right now. Balls array B, the current one we're looping through. Pool, set ball, balls array B. And of course, we haven't written that function yet. Once we put it back in the pool, we splice it from our document classes array. We're putting it back into the pool, so it doesn't need to be in our document classes array because it's off the screen. So why would we still be tracking it? It's back in the pool. It's gone from the document class for now until we need to re-pull it back in, which will happen again in our spawn ball function. When we're pull from the pool, the get ball, getting it and setting it. It's a common technique in programming, getter and a setter. Getter and our setters down here. So that's the main structure of object pooling, getting and setting. Taking from a pool, pulling out of the pool. I know I'm repeating myself, but hopefully it'll help you understand what I'm talking about. So we have to create that function. Now that we've called it, we'll get an error because it's not actually written yet. I just have the trace statements in place. So let's copy that setter function, which as you can see is smaller than and simpler than the get ball function. It's a little simpler concept, I guess. So again, these are just trace statements, so you can see that it's going back into the pool. And I'll unhighlight this one, and hopefully you'll be able to see. Let's bring these trace statements up on both the getter and the setter, so you can see that you can see it happening once I render the movie. So we're tracing the length of it. I'm just signifying the set vol function is being called, and I'm tracing the length of it again, so you can see that it got larger, and vice versa here. You know, what's the length? Now we've taken a ball out. What's the new length? So this one should be one lower when we call it again. This one should be one higher when it's called the second time, because we put a ball back in. So again, just to connect what's going on, in my check for collisions, I'm removing it, I'm resetting the properties, I'm putting it back in the pool, and this is where we go into our pool class, and the set ball function is called. It's expecting a basketball, and that's what we give it. We're giving it, you know, that ball that we just sent. We set active to false. Actually, I think I don't need to do that because I already did that. But I'm just going to leave that alone. It doesn't hurt anything. We're pushing it back into the inner array, the pool array, not the document. Remember the document class array and the pool array. We're putting it back into the pools array, so it's available again, and we're incrementing that variable up, the integer variable that tells us the current size of the pool. We need to match it to what the size of the array is, so we don't have issues when we try to pull, which I talked about earlier. So we're just incrementing our integer, and all we're doing is giving the x position and the y position. Because remember, we're going to see this on screen, so I want it to go back to where it came from. And you'll see that now that this function's actually written. So we're just putting it exactly where it was in the beginning. The starting x, which is the same for them all, and the y, that's just where that slot value comes in. Ball slot times 100. So if the slot is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it'll be 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. The y position, so they stack. So that's all we're doing. We're putting it back in the array, incrementing the pool variable, we're setting the coordinates, and we're adding the child, we're adding the child back to the parent, the document class, so you can see it on screen. Keep in mind, again, it's not stored in the document class's array until we click the mouse and we're using it, until it's active in the game. I just simply want it to be visual so you can see the pool, because I think it's a lot easier to understand. So when we're setting it back in the pool, we are adding it to the document class in a visual sense. We are adding the object in. It is on the stage, but it's not in the array of the document class because it doesn't need to be yet. It's just in the pool. So let's see this all in action. Oh, I have a syntax error. And that's because I forgot to delete the other half of the comment block. Okay, so let's see this all full circle here. We have our 5 balls, we have the hoop. Let's see if our collision detection works. There you go. And before I go into that further, let's look at what happened here. Our get ball function said the length of the pool ball array is 5, get a ball, and now the length is 4. Oh, sorry, I covered up my movie here. So I'm going to do that one more time. Grab the ball, it flows down, it touches the net, boom, it disappears, and it's put back in the pool in the same slot, the same vertical position that was originally. Same thing if it goes to the bottom of the screen. It's put back where it was. Okay, so again, and I'm going to just do this again so we have a simpler trace statements here. Boom. We grabbed one from the pool. And again, this is correlating to what you see in here. You can reference the code. I don't want to slow down the tutorial too much, but get ball. Okay, we pulled a ball out. The length is now 4. Pool ball array length is 4. Set ball back in. The length is 5. So you can see what's going on there. You're taking one, you're adding one back in. 5 to 4, 4 to 5. So we're taking from the pool and we're putting back into the pool. This is object pooling. This is what it's all about. The power. So you can see if I go really fast, we're going to have to start to create more, and it will screw up my slot positions because I didn't really account for that, because it's not that important. So you're wondering, why is it pulling from a random spot? Well, that's because we're creating extra. So I believe that's basically it. Yeah, there's really nothing more to it. It's just that main concept of reusing objects. You've got your 5 objects ready to use, and of course in your real game you won't have them on screen, but what better way to illustrate the point than here is my object pool. You don't want to have it on screen in your real game because then it's using up resources, but for the purpose of this tutorial, it's the best way to actually show you what's happening. Boom. Take it out, put it back in. There you go. If they fall off the screen, the same thing's happening. We're putting them back in the pool. That's it. All right, I hope that was informative, and this is a really important technique. And if you enjoyed the tutorial, please subscribe and spread the word, send the link to your friend. And we also have our PayPal donation system set up. The link is at the top of the description of all our videos. So if you want to give $1 or $2, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for watching. I'll have more content soon.